In this video, you'll be taking a look at NullIf conditional expression in PostgreSQL. See you after the music. In the last video, we discussed about coalesce function, which mainly takes in sets of arguments separated by comma and provides you a way to choose the first not null argument from the list. So the use case you can think of coalesce is mainly, hey, I want null value not to be present in my query. There are other conditional expression which I mentioned in the last video as well. One such expression is NullIf, whose use case is kind of opposite to coalesce. So the NullIf operator is more about, I want to handle, I want null to happen in my query. Contrary to coalesce, where you don't want null values to happen or showcase in your query. So let's take a look. Just like the last video, I'm pretty much gonna use the same setup, nothing fancy here. So to get started and clear all the older work, I'm just gonna drop the animals table again. Then I will just create the same table with a name, sound, and number of leg. Name, sound, pretty much like characters. So I'm using text, varchar, and the number of leg is integer. So as you can see in the terminal, this got created. These are just setups, Now I'm also gonna insert into animals table these values, and for two of these values I would have the sound as null. Okay, so this got added. Awesome. Now I've added coalesce here just to kind of bring the point that there's a coalesce video already available on the channel. If you want, you can take a look into it. And also coalesce and NullIf are almost the same, two sides of the coin, and they are wrappers, they are keywords added on top of case, so that you don't have to write the long cases, case statements in your query if you want not null or null values. So let's take a look into it. I'm going to remove this, and let me make it a little bit bigger. Can I make it? Yeah. So I'm using data grip, and it provides some code help, code hints. So let's say what it provides. So NullIf. Okay, let me make it a little smaller so you can see everything. Okay. So what it says is NullIf, takes in expression 1 and then expression 2. I guess I would have to make it small. Okay, there we go. It takes in expression 1, it takes in expression 2, and finally it returns either the value, like its type of 0, mainly it returns a null or not null value. All right, pretty good. So the first is, whatever is your expression 1. So let's say I want, let's compare null actually in the start. Okay, from animals. Pretty simple. What I'm doing is I'm comparing first and second argument, and NullIf, what it does is if they're equal, it returns null. If they're not equal, it returns the first argument. Let's see what it returns. So it returned null, although it's kind of confusing, but I just wanted to show this case. Now it's confusing because, well, for both, either if equality happened or not, it is always going to return null, either from the first operator or because they're both equal. But in Postgres, from my understanding, both, two null operators are not going to be compared, just like infinites are not going to be compared. One more thing, do not get confused with the if null operator available in SQL, not Postgres, SQL. This is NullIf. So it is not null if these both are equal, first and second, and it's not null is the first value if they are unequal. Well, how about we take a look into it, and peel off the first layer of the onion. So I have already opened this. I know this code looks kind of funky. It's written in C. So again, Postgres is written in C. So I'm actually at the Postgres, I'm at the Postgres mirror, which is posted on GitHub. I'm gonna put the link if you're interested in understanding the deep, functioning of how these actually are written. And if you are interested in getting really good understanding of Postgres, I would suggest you should actually take a deep dive into it. There's another source, Postgres source code, which is maintained by on subdomain Doxygen, and they also provide a very good documentation about each and every aspect of the internals of Postgres. Okay, but anyway, I'm just going to put the link, but for now I would explain what is actually happening. So this file execqual.c, again Postgres internally is written in C. So if you know C, good for you, go and do contribution. All right, so again, that brings me to the point that if you want to contribute to Postgres, which is open source, you should learn C. It's pretty simple though. You can see like what it returns. There is this in this file we have static datum, which is kind of like void pointer, return type. Exec eval coalesce. Remember coalesce function? It's right here. It's defined here. Then we have exec eval nullif. Mainly it's evaluating the conditional expression. So okay. Then we have exec eval null test. We are not interested in that. So let's move on into over here, exec eval coalesce and exec eval nullif, which is what is going to be called when you run the nullif or coalesce. So I'm not going to coalesce, but you can see what coalesce does is there is a loop which and they have added the comments as well, that there is a loop which goes through each of the argument list, and if it finds a not null value, it will just return it. Otherwise it will just return a null, which is datum 0. Let's get back to the main point of this video, exec eval nullif. Now we can skip the first few of these. This is pretty much initialization. Then we have like caching over here. Don't worry about these things. The main gist of the logic is over here. What is happening over here is, from the argument list provided, firstly they are checking that the two arguments are not null. All right, arg null, which mainly provides like a boolean return value, and what it does is if the argument which is at the argument 0, the first argument, if that argument is not null and the second argument is not null, only then go and do some comparisons. All right, pretty cool. So now what they do is they go in here, and then they what they do is they check if both of them are not null, and if they also use this datum get bool to compare these two values and see if these are equal. If these are equal, then they've set the is null to true and they return a null value, which is what NullIf does. If both first and second argument are equal, then it returns a null value. How does it happen? This is the code base which makes it happen. So again, it checks in for both to be not null, then it do a comparison over here. It checks like there's not null value available, and then they do a comparison, and if the comparison returns a true, then they set it to true, and returns a null, returns the datum 0. They set the is is null to true. If that's not the case, then what they do is they set the is null to the first argument and return the first argument. Okay, this was kind of a deep dive, but again, any code written, all of whatever code you write, whatever work you do, you should always take a look into how it works. You know, that's the best way to become a better developer, and that's the best way to really grasp you know, the basics, if you will. So having this knowledge here, let's get back to our example. So what do you think? We have provided the first argument as null. The second argument is also null. Let's go here. It is checking if the first argument and the second argument is not null. Only then go evaluate this. What it means is its NullIf is not actually working and comparing these two null values. There's no comparison happening. Why? Because they are nulls. So this if block is not going to be run in the source code. What is going to be run is the first value is going to be taken, the first value is null, and then it's going to be returned. Okay, so that's why the values are null. It's not because there was a comparison done, it is because the first value is null. Okay, it was a bit confusing, but I will get into more examples to help you understand. Let's see now. So I'm pretty much gonna use sound, okay, the sound column for the use cases for the examples. So over here we have NullIf, let's say sound, and let's say I want to compare, you know, if it is null, if it is null, then it's not going to be evaluated, it will print the first value. Okay, let's say I set it to move. All right, again, it's kind of opposite to coalesce function, where I am trying to make sure I'm trying to get a null result. Okay, so select NullIf. The first is sound, and again the from animals is evaluated first, grabs the overall query scope, and then applies the NullIf on the columns you have provided for each of the rows. So let's do this. Let's see the result. Awesome. So what really happened here? Let's see. Let's get into detail. I'm going to close this one. The first one was woof. The first column is woof, dog, right? Actually, let me pull from animals. This would be better. Okay, I'm gonna put it next. Okay, so this on the left side is animals, on the right side is the result from NullIf. So for the first one, sound was woof, not null. Okay, the second argument was not null. Let's go to the source code. If the first argument is not null and the second argument is not null, only then go and do evaluation. So then if both were not null, then it went in here. Okay, and it compared, hey, is woof equals moo? No. Then what will happen? Then it will set only if they were equal, only then it would have evaluated to a null. They were not equal, so it came over here and it printed out the first argument, which is woof. Pretty simple. Okay, then it went to the second one and the sound was null. Okay, let's follow the code, the source code of Postgres. So it says if, let's see if it evaluates this if block or not. If this is not null and this is not null, so the first and second argument both are not null. Well, the first argument is null, so it will never do a comparison. Okay, it will just print out the first argument. All right, so here is your first argument, which is null. Third, let's talk about the third in the row. Third row. The first argument was moo. Second argument was moo. It compared, hey, are these two nulls? Either of these are null? We found out no. Why? First one was moo, second one was moo. So then it went over here. and then it compared over here. It compared, was there not null value, and sorry, was there not null, and the comparison, did the comparison return the equality through a boolean datum get bool. It did. So then it set the is null to true, and that's why we got the true value over here. The fourth one is pretty same to the second row. Again, it went over here, evaluated the if statement. One of them was null, so it failed the if statement, and it didn't evaluate the if block. It went right over here. It took the first argument, which was a null, and then it printed out first argument. So there was no evaluation, no comparison done in between the two. So it kind of helps us gather more information into, or a deep dive into, how NullIf actually works. So I would always try to help you through the source code, so it gets you a better idea as to how Postgres evaluate, rather than just knowing that there's a function which exists and you can utilize it. Now you might be wondering, why the hell would I ever use this? Like, why would I want null in my result? That doesn't make sense. I agree, it doesn't make sense, just like coalesce makes sense. Like coalesce makes sense because, hey, I don't want null value, so I just want you to, prove, in case there's a null value, just instead of that null value, choose the first not null left to right in the argument list and use that as a default value. For NullIf, however, a use case which I think could be applicable is if you're utilizing a function which needs to have a null value for it to work. What's such kind of a function which works on null constraint or null argument to operate? One such is right there, coalesce, right? So let's get into coalesce right now. So if you remember coalesce, and if you don't, go to the coalesce function on this channel, which I did last time. Watch this video and then come back. But anyway, coalesce, what it does, it will keep evaluating left to right till it find not null value. So null check is very important. All right. Just above this, there is a coalesce eval as well, and you can see it goes in here and it finds first not null value and it returns that value. All right, so you can see is not null, is null, and then it returns the value. So we could utilize coalesce. You could use coalesce as a use case for using NullIf. What I'm trying to say is select, okay, coalesce. Okay, now let's say in my table, instead of null, I had an empty, like an empty string. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is bear. Do I know the sound? I don't know. Bear doesn't have 100 legs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a bear. Do you know what sound bear makes? That's interesting. Anyway, I don't remember. So I'm inserting into animals another row, which is bear, empty string, and 4. Now coalesce is not going to work for an empty string, but I don't want empty string to be present. I want a different value which says not available, right? So if I try to evaluate coalesce on this, okay, let's say sound, if I try to do that, what will be the result? Whoops, sorry, character pairing, not available. Okay, the result is, wait, did I? Oh, I didn't insert. Okay, there we go. Now it's gonna work. Cool. Okay, so I inserted into animals, and you can see the last value is pretty much empty. Why? Because coalesce needs a null value in the column to work. So I want not available to be present instead of empty string, because this is, if I pull it out on the front end, this is going to be empty, or if I pull it out on a report CSV file, it's going to be empty. I don't want it to be empty. I want there to be default value, right? So in that case, you can utilize your NullIf friend. So I'm just gonna take what I wrote over here and just gonna write simple. So coalesce, I just repeated the same thing, but here in sound, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use NullIf. Okay. What it's gonna do is, again, if the sound is null, it's gonna be null. Why? Well, the first argument is null, so it's not gonna do comparison. It will return the first argument. Coalesce will run, right? Actually, let me remove this. All right, cool. If the sound is available, and I'm gonna put over here empty string. All right. If the sound is available and it's not an empty string, let's go back to here. If you remember, if they are available, they are not null. Here, if the sound is available, like for row number 3 or row number 1, and it compared with this, and if they are not equal, it will return not null, it will return the first value. So for woof and moo, it will return woof and moo. So coalesce will run and it will print out woof and moo, right? But for the fifth one, which is a special case where we have empty string, okay? For that one, the sound will be present because it's not empty. So this code block in the source code will run, okay? And after running, it will evaluate, are these two equal? Right here, are these two equal? So the fifth case, it would be equal. So what would be the return? Well, the return would be null. So this block, this NullIf, not block, conditional expression, will return null. And if it returns null, then the default value will get set to not available. Right, pretty cool. So let's see it in action. I'm gonna first of all remove all the results, and there we go. See that? Oops. I'm gonna run it again. I sorted it. I don't want to sort. Okay, let me make it bigger. That's what it should. Anyway, so you can see now we do not have that problem because we utilize NullIf to handle a weird case of empty string, right? So that's kind of like really cool use case of null. All right, it's mainly used to evaluate equality between equality between arguments, and then return a null if they are equal. The incentive, the use case is kind of opposite to coalesce, where in coalesce you don't want null to be present, while through NullIf you want null to be returned. Okay. Now let's explore last few things about it. Okay. So select, now let's see if there is a constraint on what I can provide. Okay. Fcache, these are all null. These are pretty much, so we have fcinfo argument right over here. Okay. The argument, I don't see, like, if it, yeah, I don't see anywhere it says, hey, your argument has to be a certain type. So in that case, I can actually use this on my last column, which is pretty much number of leg, and I will compare it with 100. Okay, number of leg 100. Again, what will happen if it is null? Well, the first argument is null and the column is null, it would return null, no comparison. If it is not null, both of them, then it will go in there, compare both of them, and it will find out, hey, is it equal? If it is equal, returns null. If it is not equal, then it returns the first argument. All right, let's see. So you can see 444 100 was equal, so it returned null. Again, NullIf is for equality checking. If they are equal, it will return null. So we got our null value over here. All right. Now let's say, what about argument, like what about equality of types among the argument? Let's check what happens, okay? What if number of leg is integer? We saw it here, right? And the second argument I'm providing is string or any other float, or I don't know. You be the jury. You choose whatever you want. You do you. All right. So I'm going to put it here. Let's see what happens. What do you think? There we go. Invalid input syntax for type integer not available. So for conditional expressions over here, just like coalesce, NullIf also wants you to have same type for all the arguments you provide. If the types are different, you're gonna get this error. Okay. Well, I hope this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to, for your help, I'm going to put this link in the description as well. And I always recommend you going into, of course, I would cover a lot of Postgres and other database internals, or advanced concept, but it's not possible for me to cover everything in detail. So in that scenario, I would always advise you, go to the source code. There is no code available on this earth which is not understandable. It's available somewhere. Just go and read it and you will understand how it works. All right, well, try it out. Try the NullIf. Let me know in comments how it works. Let me know some cool use cases you utilize other than what I said, other than what I showcased you. Let me know how it goes. All right, see ya.